It's the end of a fortnight of international summits. A gaggle of state and federal energy ministers, bureaucrats and business types, well, they enjoyed the largesse of the Committee of Parties, the COP27. They were amongst 45,000 delegates. Many grifters were there in their private jets. And it's all wrapped up in emotive language about saving the planet. But in reality, COP27, well, it was all about us paying more for food, paying more for electricity, and rewarding well-placed elites with more of our money. Australia has, in a generation, gone from having the world's cheapest electricity, and plenty of it, to having some of the most expensive electricity and no guarantee for the supply of power in the years ahead. Extraordinary stuff. And this rush to renewables, well, it's just sending us over an energy and economic cliff. And even the wokest of countries in Europe, well, they've opted for reliability over renewable. But here in Australia, governments of all stripes seem to be rushing headlong into renewables, creating this huge incentive for rent seekers here and from overseas to, well, grab government handouts to build more and more industrial wind and solar infrastructure. Don't call them farms. All of it's driving up energy prices. And frankly, the bigger dilemma, though, is going to be the reliability of supply as wind and solar dominates in our power grid. You see, wind and solar provide surges in power, but not baseload power. And the winds and the sunshine, well, when they stop, so does the electricity. Renewable devices also are made with components which, in part, can pollute agricultural ecosystems. In plenty of places here and worldwide, trees, forests are being ripped down to build these industrial-sized generators. It's hardly very environmentally friendly. Yet this is the nonsense Australia has signed up to, and we're likely to pay taxes to offer a sop to third world regimes doing, well, frankly, nothing about this hyped-up climate crisis. There's only a few countries, like China, India, Indonesia, big population and big polluters, but they're actually acting in their own best national interests, ignoring all of this nonsense. But we're caving in, as always. The summit season also saw the meeting of ASEAN countries in Cambodia, and then, of course, the G20 in Bali, which saw President Biden and China's President Xi both attend. Our Prime Minister was rightly wanting to thaw the relationship with China. It's a long way to go, but he has at least made a start and good on him. The Prime Minister has stated Australia will stand its ground on values and attitudes. That's fair enough, but it's also obvious that China will be too. However, in his rush to impress the international peers, our Prime Minister has made claims about Australia's potential to produce more food and more energy for the world, which all looks good in the headlines, but doesn't really stack up. You see, solar and wind won't produce enough power for our use, and the coal we export is counted against our emission targets. Going to punish ourselves. Also, how can we produce more food when prime agricultural land is being damaged by the madness of this rush to renewables? Australian farmers currently produce food for about 150 million people each year. It's not much, really, given there's now 8 billion of us in the world. And we have no real hope of growing more food without more water. And I know we're seeing a series of dreadful floods in New South Wales, up to floods in Victoria. But there's plenty of dopey people in politics who'll have you believe we don't need more dams. But simply put, we do. Australia is a just add water country. Great and good agricultural land needs water in many parts of northern and inland Australia. Better water plans are what is needed, but the Albanese Labor government, they've cancelled funds allocated for water supply projects under the Morrison government. Apparently Labor and the Greens truly believe we actually don't need farmers because, well, we can get our food from Woolies and Coles. And PMs who talk big overseas sometimes forget summit attendees are very well-informed peers who realise when platitudes are not matched by actual performance.